Welcome to another edition of the Bones of Advertising. I'm Craig McLeod and you are?
I'm John Douglas.
Johnny Douglas, welcome to the fray one more time, my boy. Now, JD, I want to know today, what kind of bone are we going to pick over? But before we start on the bone, I want to get back to the coffee count. What's the number? What are we up to, my friend?
11. We're up to 11. 11 and 12. We're going to have another one this afternoon. 12.
Fantastic.
So we're churning through them, and it's fun. Like I'm connecting with people that I haven't connected with for a while, and everyone I think is looking for a reason to connect. Everyone's looking for reasons to chat. Everyone's looking for just I think there is a genuine kind of sense of community that you forget you've got when you're in an office and you're just working through whatever you work through, day to day. And then, something like this happens and it's an opportunity, to get out of whatever it is that's going through your day. And it's simple. Like you actually give yourself permission to connect with people, which I think is what kind of makes business go around, really.
Yeah, absolutely. I can say, I know we catch up all the time anyway, but I think even just when we talk to each other on the phone, it's just that point of being able to check in and just see what's going on. So I'm wrapped, I think it's great. And I too am pursuing the coffee cup, let's call it the coffee cup marathon.
The coffee-thon.
The coffee-thon. Anyway, let's get back to our bone. We want to make sure we're nice and tight on our delivery of our content today. So let's get back to our bone. What are we going to chew over?
Well, I'm glad you asked me that question.
I love when you give me that one.
I would really like to talk about relevance in advertising. And it's been particularly visible how irrelevant some of the advertising is when you look at some of the advertising that is going on in the social space, in the in television, on
digital.
I watch SBS. It's on SBS a bit. There's all of those kind of replay platforms. There's a whole lot of, and someone did a brilliant mashup of it on Forbes. You can see it. It's done by Microsoft Sam, I think. There's a YouTuber called Microsoft Sam, and he's done this thing, and it says all COVID ads are the same. Yeah. And it's a whole lot of US ads, and it's all like lovely little piano and. Yeah, we care for you, stay at home. We care for you, stay apart, come together, but don't, that kind of, we really, really care. Like we spend billions of dollars trying to get you to buy our product, but as soon as anything like this happens, we really care about you just long enough to take my money out of your pocket.
Exactly.
It's irrelevant. Like there's no reason why Audi, and there's a lovely ad that someone in their advertising agency obviously has come up with, and it's got the Audi logo, and it's all just 4 circles, 1, 2, 3, 4.
Separated the circles, yeah.
Separated the circles, and it's it's a lovely ad that is designed to appeal to 12 people, 12 advertising judges in a jury room, and has absolutely nothing to do with the car and absolutely nothing to do with the people who buy the car. It doesn't make me feel better about Audi. It makes me, as an advertising guy, think, oh, that's clever. But I would imagine that the person thinking about buying a new car isn't going, oh, isn't that lovely? That corporate is just like they're reaching out and putting their arm around me. Bullshit. I'm sorry, but pardon my French.
Mate, you're right, it's lame. It's absolutely lame. I noticed as well, Channel 9 late to the party, but the 9 dots that make up the Channel 9, they're all dispersed on the Today Show. I'm like, really? You really think that's great? Come on. Imagine if Russ Howcroft saw that.
Yeah. Oh, Russell Howcroft will be turning in his grave. He's not dead yet, but
He's not dead yet.
He'd be turning in his swivel chair over there. Where is he? PwC or PwC.
PwC.
I mean, by all means, advertise. Like now is a great time to be communicating with your customer. It keeps you top of mind. It keeps you in a frame of reference. But for the sake of all that is holy, don't advertise a message that has nothing to do with the brand you're trying to build. Like you're trying to create a story. You're trying to create a memory structure in the hearts and minds of the people that you're dealing with, your most relevant customer base.
Yep.
They don't care. They know. Like, it's not my business as a business to go around and say to all of my customers, keep your social distance. I mean, that's what bloody Dan Andrews is doing, isn't it?
Yeah, that's what Scotty Morrison is doing.
Isn't that what we all know anyway?
Geez, it should be. If you don't know that by now, God.
Like, it's
ridiculous.
By all means, reference current events. We need to stay relevant, and we need to stay, we need to reflect the culture that we live in. And, it's the biggest thing to happen, since this 2008 recession. Like, there's plenty of reasons to reference it.
Yeah.
But to tell me what to do on top of what I know I should do, like, it's mansplaining. At the very least, it's mansplaining, which makes me think that it probably has been designed by a middle-aged white guy somewhere in the privacy of his own corner office.
Who looks a lot like both of us, but not us.
Yes, exactly. Looks exactly like me with a tie.
Maybe it's probably got longer hair than us.
It's vaguely condescending.
Yeah. Like, look, I reckon you're on the money. It's considerate. Maybe don't even reference it. Just consider it in what you're about to say. So put a sense check over what it is you're about to put out and say, is this appropriate given current circumstances? That's all you got to do. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, there's a really lovely ad that Colgate have done. Everyone's referencing it, so I don't feel like, please don't, I'm not trying to be, I'm not Moses coming down with a Colgate ad from the mountain. I've seen a burning bush and pulled out a bloody ad. But it's this delightful thing where it's just, it shows a whole lot of people online. Like, it's just a video montage of how people are communicating these days. So it's all done on iPhone.
Yeah.
It's all just people looking at camera, smiling, it's delightful because it kind of reflects the reality of the world we find ourselves in now. And it just says, now more than ever, remember to share your smile, Colgate. And it's like, that's brilliant, because it doesn't say keep your social distance, and it doesn't say together apart, and it doesn't say, we can survive and stay strong. And it references it, but it's relevant to the brand, and it will sell bloody toothpaste.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. And I'm all for that, and it's okay to make money in this time. It's okay to keep the economy turning. People are, should we advertise? Should we put an ad out there? Should we make money? Should we feel bad about that? What's it going to do? Is it going to impact our ability to get JobKeeper? You know what? You've still got to try and make your business work. At the end of the day, when we come out of this stuff, which, Johnny, could be a good segue, but at the end of the day, when you come out of this stuff, if you've done nothing and you've let things just fade away, guess what? You'll either be gone when we come out, or you'll be irrelevant.
Yeah. Yes. And that's the very worst thing a business can be, is irrelevant.
Yeah.
Like, nothing kills a career faster than being seen as irrelevant, and nothing kills a business faster than being seen as irrelevant.
Absolutely.
And like, stay top of mind. Like, and it doesn't matter if you're using, like, I have a client, aged care client. I work with an aged care client, and they have done this delightful, they're using their people to help their residents feel better about the way the world is. Because people in aged care are scared shitless.
Yeah, God, they are, aren't they?
They are. Like, they're the people that they really are in the danger zone.
Yeah.
And there's this delightful community thing that people are sharing online, and it costs them nothing. It costs them absolutely nothing, but it does make their their core customer group, the residents that are inside old age homes, it makes them feel better.
And you know what else, Joe? That families will feel better seeing that.
Absolutely. I think it's like, you know, we care about our people, and we care about our residents, and, you know, that's all we've got. Yeah. And you know what? When you're providing care, that's all you need.
Yep, exactly.
Really?
And you better make sure you care for them while they're there, because, you know, they need to be, and particularly, as you said, those most vulnerable. But I think the families of those that are in that care are also lost, wondering what's happening and how their parents are coping, or, you know, their loved ones are coping in this area of isolation. It must be traumatic for them too.
It is. It's a. You've got to understand. I think when you're doing advertising, especially in times like this, everything is open for criticism, and everyone is looking for reasons to be an armchair critic. I mean,
we're at a podcast like us.
Yeah. Yes, I completely agree.
We finally have the time. We've been talking about it. We finally have the time.
but there is a sense of, I need to speak. I need to be seen to speak. But for God's sake, think about what you're going to be saying before you open your mouth. I mean, not like me. I mean, I'm prepared to just open my mouth and just let the world share my opinion. But I think if you're a corporate, I think you should kind of sense check it a little. Yeah. You know?
Agreed. And look, most of what comes out of your mouth is great. So, you know, it doesn't often need sense checking, and usually it leaves me in fits of laughter. So, but last week we touched on a point that I want to back over if we can, and talk about going from this state of euphoria where people are going to come out of lockdown, and as we said, they're going to need to go to the pub, they're going to need to have a burger, they're going to need to have a beer again, they're going to go to restaurants, they're going to go on a date, they're going to do all those things.
Yeah.
Then what happens if we're in a recession?
I think it'll be a slower recovery. Like, people will still be budgeting, but I think there will be a sense of wanting to get back to normal. Yeah. Like, human behavior is human behavior. Like, if you're the kind of person who before the COVID thing happened, if you were the sort of person who liked to go down to the pub, you'll be the sort of person who goes down to the pub in a recession. I mean, they always said that the two best businesses to have in a recession were a bakery and a pub.
Yep.
You know, like, people will still go down to the pub. People will still want to go shopping. People will still want to find ways of connecting with other people. They'll be wanting to go and exercise. So you would imagine, if you're in a sports good, you know, business, or if you were a sports, like a you know, Nike or New Balance, or, you know, whatever.
Yep.
If you were in that kind of business, like, as soon as people can get out and, you know, go down to the gym again, people are going to be wanting to go down to the gym again. Yes, there will be financial constraints, but that will be the baseline. Like, I remember when I was talking to a guy who was used to be the brand manager at the State Bank in South Australia, turn of the century, which sounds so weird now. Back in the turn of the century, when I was digging for gold in Ballarat.
Back in 1999.
But I was talking to him, and he referenced the recessions of the 80s, that whole kind of boom and bust cycle.
Yeah, right.
That we've had. And the last kind of big kind of downturn was 1987, I think, or 1988 or whatever.
Yep, 87.
And he said, like, it took South Australia, because South Australia is kind of a bastard son of the two East Coast powerhouses. And so the trickle-down economics, it takes a long time to trickle across the Hay Plain, and down the Murray. But the thing was, he said that it takes people a while to understand that that's the baseline. and we work our way up from there.
Yeah.
We don't bounce. So there was that big bounce when the 2008, when the economy went, like that. And then immediately it went straight up again like that. But that was an absolute bing.
So our ability to come out of recession is far greater in this digital age, isn't it? We can definitely, things move a lot more quickly than they did back, say, post World War II.
Yeah. I mean, you think about how well people have handled the coronavirus crisis in my mind. Like the power of the internet, the power of communication, this understanding that people have got to act. Like, if we hadn't had instant communications and we had some governments that were more than prepared to take a big economic hit just to get it under control.
Yep.
Like, how many millions of deaths would there be? And I don't mean to trivialize it in the name of commerce, but
many.
Like the internet has made, this power of communication has made it possible for us to keep a lid on this thing.
Yeah.
And so I think you're right. I think there is we've got an incredibly diverse array of tools we have at our disposal that will enable us to get, I think, more quickly out of the recession. I mean, I still think we might go into a recession. I'm not a financial guru by any stretch, but every financial guru that you hear
says that
is saying we're going into a recession. And
so what opportunities are there, JD, in a recession for a brand? Now, that might sound ridiculous to say, but what opportunities are there for brands in a recession? So there's three options I would like to discuss. I would like you to discuss with me. Number one is decrease your spend. So we know that that's what some people will have to do. They don't have a choice.
Yep.
There's those that will maintain their spend. And then there'll be those that increase their spend in these times. Now, potentially that'll be a market that may be blooming, like we talked about, food delivery, Deliveroo, those kind of customers may be in a position where they can elevate their spend given circumstances are driving their business. We talked about that last week, but I really wanted to hear about share of voice and how a brand, even in a smaller market, can really grow share of voice in these times.
I think the thing you need to do is you need to be aware of where your money's coming from. Look at where's your sweet spot in your business. Which are the brands? If you're a business that has multiple brands and two of them are go gangbusters and one of them is just a relic from a different time, I would have a close look at their relic and ask it if it was just feeling a little bit tired and needed to, go out to pasture.
Just wake it up from its snooze in the afternoon.
Yeah. I mean, there are some like I did some work for City of Melbourne ages ago, and they had so many brands that there's no way they could support all of those brands with the marketing budget. And every single brand had a marketing manager, as it should. Like, I think if you've got different brands, they all need their own special kind of love.
Yeah.
But you've only got this much money. You've only got a bucket of money. You don't have 7 buckets. So how are you going to spend that money best? And my guess would be if 80% of your business comes from 20% of your brands or products, I'd pour my money into those and let the market forces be what the market forces will be. I think if you're fighting for survival and you've got a gun and a piece of chewing gum, my guess is you'd throw the chewing gum away.
Correct.
Do you know what I mean? I think unless you're in a specific kind of fight where chewing gum, becomes the but in most cases, I think you just need to be really pragmatic and really realistic, and you need to be relevant. You need to don't don't dismiss your customers. Don't treat your customers like idiots. Like the whole thing about advertising is to build awareness and be relevant and somehow influence preference, so that when people go to the shops, or when you ring a B2B, if you're a B2B business and you ring one of your clients, your business or your product or your service is top of mind. They like it because it's relevant, and they have a sense of preference for your brand.
Yep.
And it's that, do they like your brand enough to give you the 5 minutes you need to sell them the product?
Our favourite salience, JD, top of mind when they're buying is key. It's great to be top of mind when they're not buying, but it ain't going to help sales. So we've got to make sure we're top of mind when they're actually in that purchase consideration mode.
Like I can't, as an advertiser, I can't hold the salesperson's hand and take them to the customer. Like that's not going to happen. I'm not the guy who, advertising isn't the person who closes the sale. Advertising is the person who makes customers aware of the service or the product and sows the ground, prepares the ground for the salesperson to walk in there.
Yep.
And it's only a small part of marketing. Like there's a whole lot of other parts of marketing that good ideas agencies, good ideas people can say, well, maybe it's not advertising. Maybe you need to work on your distribution. Maybe you need to work on a communication to clients in ways that are not seen as kind of advertising, but are relevant and profitable and gain preference and salience.
Nurturing, JD, the old, imagine that, nurturing through the journey. Remember the old sales journey, that we may find a customer, in that digital realm, who has no idea who we are. We're complete strangers to a point where we want to give them some information about us, but then we want them to come back and give them a bit more. Then we actually want to build some credibility, some trust. And guess what? Maybe on the backside of that, they may trust us, they may like us, they may choose us, and they may buy us. Whoa, that's a little new.
Don't tell anyone that there are commercial ramifications to advertising.
One of the other things we talk about often is distinct, something that someone's going to see that will help them remember. Now, it doesn't have to be completely different to everyone else, but it has to be more memorable. That's the part we've got to work on. Make sure it sticks in here. That's the real important part that we've got to make sure that we maintain. And often with clients, it's hard to have them come on a journey of being courageous as well, really understanding the importance of not doing the same stuff all the time. Being in a position where we can create something new and distinct. And if it's not new, just make it more memorable. Make it with the ability to stick in the mind of our consumer. That's really what we're trying to do.
Yeah. Yep. Like there's a great case study for, I think Sanderson Farms, eggs, chickens. They were in the States. Foster's Farms chickens. So the market, the chicken market in the San Francisco, in California, was separated between, I think, Sanderson Farms and Foster's Farms. And they both had roughly kind of, 45% of the market. And there were a whole lot of other, little niche brands that had. But the guy who was the strategist for the Foster's Farms has gone to the creative department and said, with exactly the same, our chickens, there's no difference in the chickens. There's no difference in the way they're raised. There's no difference in the way they've, that everything is exactly the same. The only maybe difference is our chickens are raised in California and Sanderson Farms are raised, but they're picked, they're plucked, they're frozen, and they're shipped. Like that's how the chickens work. So the creative department came up with this idea of just make people remember the brand. so that when they're in the supermarket, they're going to want to pick up a Foster's Farms chicken rather than a Sanderson Farms chicken. Like, it was really kind of that simple.
Yeah, right.
So they invented these two chickens that were trying desperately to go from one side of the country to the other to become a Foster's Farm chicken. But they're in this shit heap of a car, they're smoking, they're drinking. It's just this teenage road trip across America.
The chickens.
It was, you know, we're going to be Foster's Farms chickens. Everyone who watched this going, no, you're not. No.
I love it.
It was delightful. So just be relevant. I think the temptation to decrease marketing spend, advertising spend, communication spend, I think that it's very easy for people who don't understand or necessarily want to delve too deeply into the how advertising works.
Yeah.
And how important it is to be memorable and be relevant and be top of mind with customers. Like, how do you build those memory structures we talked about last week?
Yeah, absolutely.
But so while the temptation is don't spend, you can spend in ways that make yourself visible to the people that matter. The biggest sweet spot of your segmentation, how you're targeting them, what's your position inside that targeted segment, what are you saying to them, and how do you communicate with them? And it might not be a television ad or a poster or a social media campaign. It might be something that is less expensive but just as effective for the sweetest spot of your marketing budget. So if you've got a marketing budget, like, you know, just find out who the most effective customer target is, and then what's the most effective way of using that money to influence them to continue buying your product.
Yep.
And you know, I think that's the simplest argument for anyone looking at decreasing a spend is just focus your spend. Don't necessarily decrease it, or if you need to decrease it, if the business is saying you need to decrease it, then you need to play it smarter and find an idea that connects with your sweetest customer target.
I love it. That sounds like a great way to wrap up another edition of The Bones of Advertising with JD and my good self. And mate, thank you. It's been a pleasure again, and we'll look forward to seeing everyone next week.
See ya.
See you later.
See ya.